Hey, how are you, Natalie?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
I can. You are on now. So,
Yay.
Instagram Live, we figured it out.
We did. This
I
is the
threw,
first time I've done this.
well, I've done it a couple times and it's always like, even when you're tapping the little thing, it's like takes a little time where you're like kind of panicked in your own world, like, is it going to work? Is it going to go?
Yeah.
And then finally it goes. So,
Yeah, I had everybody in my family turn their Wi-Fi off so that it wouldn't interfere with my Wi-Fi today. So we've had that happen
uh,
before.
well, thank you for taking some sacrifices today.
Hey, whatever it takes. Anything for you.
Well, thanks. Well, as we're kind of getting, I see we've got some people joining us. Some of them are familiar,
Yeah, I'm
so
seeing
that's
some
kind of fun.
GSB people popping up on here.
Awesome. And I know you're at home today.
I am.
When did you go remote?
My last day in the office was March 16th. So I have been working remotely since March 17th. And today is the first day I've put on makeup since March 16th. Feel like that's important to note.
Well, I've been wearing, some people are like, "Oh, is it the same hoodie every day?" And I'm like, "Well, it's not I actually have like a little section of my closet dedicated to company hoodies. So
There
like
you go.
it's kind of been my uniform for the last couple weeks."
Yeah, my uniform has consisted of a certain set of really comfortable t-shirts. And I'm really glad that I have stocked up on athleisure. So having all the leggings, I can kind of go between my different color of black leggings every day. So that's been good.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. Well, we might have to send you another t-shirt just so you're
Yeah.
stocked up on home
Yeah. I
t-shirts.
have I have an Arkansas shirt on today, so I can
Awesome.
represent the great state of Arkansas.
Awesome. Well, I thought, as we're kind of getting people to jump in here, maybe you could just like give us an update. This is, we're trying something new today. We're, just trying to give some people, I know it's a really tough time with all
Yeah.
the SBA stuff, all the stuff that's kind of happening in banking right now, and
Hmm.
just thought this would be a great time for us to just kind of catch up with a friend and share that with a whole bunch of our other friends. So
Yeah.
so quite
Yeah.
honestly, that's kind of the way I've seen this, as just kind of us catching up. So maybe you can help, like, just help us understand what's been going on in your world. You're back home on the farm, right?
Yes, yes, and I'm really thankful for that. So yes, if you have not follow me for a while, I'm a fifth generation family farmer here in Northwest Arkansas, and my boys are the sixth generation to grow up here on the farm. Part of the Battle of Prairie Grove during the Civil War was fought here on this place when my family owned it. So I don't
Wow.
remember how many greats it is, but that whatever generation, the first generation here, witnessed that battle. And so the hillside that we live on, we just renovated this home. It was my grandparents' home.
Hmm.
It was actually built in the 70s, but the original home that sat here was used as a Union hospital during the Civil War.
Oh,
And
wow.
so yeah, so there's lots of history here, and really thankful to still be here. I have a twin sister. She lives in Texas. I don't see that she's joined us yet, so I'll have to bust her for that. But just really thankful to have this space, especially during a time like this. It's funny how you can take simple things for granted. I've always been very thankful and grateful to have this land and to have that heritage. But you get caught up in the busyness of life, and I have about an hour and 15-minute commute to the office, and suddenly removing that from my day, and sitting here in front of my laptop, and if I can do a screen reverse, I'll show you guys the view I have, but it just is this great overview of the farm, and seeing that every day and knowing that the boys can run outside and play around and they're not always in here bugging me, and while I'm trying to work, they're having a hard time understanding why I'm home. That's really confusing to them because typically they know that I'm at the office all day. Usually don't get home till about 6 or 6:30, and so it's just a real change of life, but having been forced to slow down, and to understand that simplicity is there's a lot of beauty in that, and not having all the work events to go to. In my role, that's been kind of a big part. I have that expectation to be present and to represent the bank, which I love that. I'm a extroverted social person, but I'm finding that maybe there's a part of me that is more introverted, because I have enjoyed just being here and being calm and still being able to do my work, but be around the family without the hustle and bustle of getting up in the morning and getting ready and getting in the car and fighting the traffic for an hour and all of that. So it's definitely been a huge shift in perspective. And so I think I'm going to really challenge myself when we finally get back to normal, whatever that is, that I will be careful what I choose to take with me to that new normal, from my old normal. If that makes any sense.
That's awesome. My pastor messaged, we were chatting last week, and he goes, God never wastes a crisis. And
That's right,
I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, if we're not learning from this thing, like,
yeah,
we're going
yeah,
to. So
yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah.
Awesome. Now you have 2 kids at home
Yes,
with
yes.
you?
I've got a 9. They're both about to have a birthday in June, but Brody is 9 and was in 3rd grade. I say was, technically is still in 3rd grade. He'll never forget his 3rd grade year, no doubt. And then I've got Witten, who is 3, and he was named after the great Jason Witten that used to play for the Cowboys. I think he's going to play for the Raiders this next year if they have an NFL season. But anyway, he was named after Jason Witten. So 9 and 3, about to be 10 and 4, and very unique personalities. Witten is a lot like, he's more like me, and then my oldest Brody is a lot like my husband. So yeah, it keeps things interesting, no doubt.
Well, those both sound like cowboy names, though.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they do. Yeah. So Brody's middle name is West, after my maiden name. So Brody West Bartholomew. And then Witten is Witten Hughes, after my grandfather. So Witten Hughes Bartholomew. We use that middle name a lot anymore here since I've been home. We got to pull out the middle name to drive the point home.
I like it. So so what else? I mean, you're at home, sort of not working at the bank. Like, what do you feel like has been the biggest change? Is it that your kids are kind of seeing you in a different light, or what do you feel like has been the biggest shift of being at home?
Yeah, so a couple of things. From the family perspective, and we were talking before we got on the live, that, I saw an article the other day that said there's no such thing as work-life balance. And I've always agreed with that. But now that my work and home life are merged together, literally, that's so true. There's no such thing. So now that we're forced to have to work while at home, I mean, I'm sitting here, I've closed the laundry room door because the laundry is like piled over my head right now. And so there's this, it's funny, you would think being at home, I would always have a clean house and my laundry would always be updated or done. Which, by the way, Witten changes clothes about 10 times a day. So he keeps the laundry hopping. Or the dishes would always be done, and I'd have all this time to be outside. No. It's crazy to get up and sit in my little spot here and then look and be like, oh, I haven't eaten lunch, or it's 5 o'clock already, or I know it's 6 o'clock, but I'm going to finish this. Like, I'm having to adapt to this whole new way of shutting off. The first week I really struggled with that. I had a really hard time as we were figuring out things on the HR side of my job, of how to handle our employees and make sure they knew that they were going to be taken care of, and figuring out what this quarantine situation was going to be. And it was just kind of a taxing, it was very heavy. Obviously everything we're dealing with right now is heavy, but that really was. And I wasn't shutting off. I mean, when I was done with work at 5 or 6 o'clock, I was then watching the news, and I was reading articles, and then I was staying awake all night because I was scared to death. And I was like, okay, I've got to learn how to shut off. having that commute when I'm driving to the office, I'm a big podcast person, or I like to listen to certain music or books on Audible. And I wasn't having that wind up to work and wind down. There was no middle ground. It was just get out of bed, go sit in my perch, work all day, keep the kids from killing each other, all those kinds of things all of a sudden were like right in front of me, and I'm dealing with it all at the same time. Whereas it's funny when you're at the office and they don't, you get a phone call and you may have to deal with something, but you're not literally living it. So it's been a huge shift for me. And being more patient. I've never been a big patient person. Being
Same.
patient, and it's funny because, so like on the farm, my parents are just down the hill. And so we've kind of created a bubble here of how we're quarantining and helping each other. But it's funny as we all are trying to figure this out and go on with our everyday lives the best we can. It's, those not tempers flare, but there's times where you just want to snap and you're like, wait, I don't know how much longer we're going to be doing this. So just hold back that comment and let's try to stay civil and get through it together. Everybody's just trying to figure out what this is, and everybody's frustrated. So it's been a huge shift for me. I think my kids have been really, they're getting used to it now that I'm here, but I think they had a hard time at first. Not that they're used to me being gone, but they couldn't respect the work part. Like, oh, I need to get out of the room. I can't come in here and burp in her ear because she's on a Zoom call. That happened the other day. Or I actually had to go wipe a hiney. I had my youngest was screaming from the other room to come wipe his bottom, and I was like, please let the mute button not fail me, because that would be really embarrassing. So it's it's been fun.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, I totally resonate with so many of the things you said, like just sitting down at home and thinking, when I was at work, like there were certain things that I had for breaks that were sort of built in that I don't have at home, right? Like when I'm sitting in the same chair all day on Zoom call after Zoom call and, then phone call, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't know when the last time was I got up out of this chair.
Right.
Or at least when I went to the conference room and then I went back, like at least there was some transition time.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, this is the first Zoom or live meeting or Zoom that I've had where I actually allowed the video option to be on. I've had the video turned off on every other conference call I've done. So
well, thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing with us.
You can actually see today.
Yeah. So let's back up. Like, what really is what's your role at the bank? I don't know if I know what your job title is. I do kind of know what you do, but what's your role in Compass at the bank?
Yeah. So my label or title is the Chief Administrative Officer. And so that's a few things. I'm over our marketing and have a couple of people on the team there. I've got I think Jennifer's on the call. I saw, or on watching today. She also doubles as a loan assistant and has really done a great job with that. So she's like my right arm. I couldn't do without her. And so she helps me. And then I have a marketing firm that I work with too. And then I have an HR role. So Kelsey, I don't know if she's on the call or not, but so she's our HR director. And so I work with her. And it's been great to have our partnership and friendship through all of this as we have navigated the HR waters of this whole situation. Our main focus has been our focus beyond our customers is to take care of our team, because the team is, they're our greatest asset. Without them, the bank can't function. And so immediately trying to jump ahead and ensure our team that they were going to be taken care of and compensated through all of this without them having to be fearful for their job or earning a paycheck, all the while navigating through how to quarantine people if they had been exposed or if they had traveled somewhere, in those early days as we were trying to figure this out. And we tried to be really proactive. We started having meetings about this probably over a month ago. And so that has probably consumed most of my time lately, and I'm really thankful to be working with my coworker Kelsey on that. So the marketing, HR, and then strategic planning. So just overall strategic our strategy at the bank in terms of growth and employee morale, and that administrative title just kind of encompasses all those things. I kind of like to say if things are on fire, I get to be a part of putting it out. So whatever those problems are. So like we were talking earlier, obviously this kind of involves the marketing side of my role, but this SBA stuff that we're all digesting right now. I have had a lending background through the majority of my career before coming to Grand Savings. And while I'm not actively lending now, it's come in handy to at least have some of the knowledge and understanding as we're trying to come up with the messaging that for SBA and how we're going to navigate through that. And so honestly, one of my favorite things about working at Grand Savings Bank is that we never know what we're going to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And that was even before, like, we change constantly, which is fun. That makes it always interesting. But even before this pandemic, you could come to work and have some great challenge thrown at you. And so it's fun. We have a great time, and I love having the ability to work with the team that I have. And I see Jackie was on here, and Jill. I've got some great coworkers, and it's like a family. I think that's the great part of working for a community bank is that, and if you don't love the people you work with, then you need to figure out something else, because other than right now, when you're actually working from home, you typically are living with your coworkers. So you want to make sure that you enjoy working with those people and have good relationships, because they're just an extension of family.
Yeah. So many familiar names coming in. It's really fun to see,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see all of them kind of like coming in. And I'd love to, and there's Jackie giving you a shout out. I saw Jamie said earlier something about, hey, how like during this, I'm realizing my workaholic tendencies. And so we're certainly touching on a lot of those topics.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give people some time to start queuing up some questions, but I'd love to learn a little bit more, when you're talking about employee engagement was one of those things that, in a small company, it all kind of lands on all of us. Hi, Autumn. But one of those things that kind of like lands on everybody is how we engage each other as employees in this time. And as I
Yeah.
kind of mentioned, we're doing a webinar next week. And so I'm like messaging Greg, who runs Get Best Places to Work and stuff. And he's like, yeah, here's some things I'm doing. And I'm like, hey, we got to just do this as a webinar, because like I don't even
Yeah.
know like where to start. But
Right.
I would love to hear from you, like how are you thinking about that HR? You mentioned like helping people feel secure, which I think is that's the first part, right? Like we can't trust
Right.
each other until we feel safe and secure. Like,
Right.
but then like what comes next? Like how do you what else have you done to just help I mean, are you sending out emails to people? Are you like, how are you communicating even?
Yeah. So a quick point on that too. And I'm sure a lot of people that are working remotely right now that typically aren't used to working remotely, there's this FOMO that you experience, the fear of missing out. And so I share an office, or kind of like I don't want to say suite, because that implies that it's real fancy, and it's not, but my CEO and then our retail officer and myself kind of share a space. And so, there's a lot of conversations that take place on any normal day, that collaboration that's so fun and great. And I feel like I'm missing out on that because I'm not there. And they pick up the phone, and I talk to my CEO multiple times a day, and have ever since working from home. But there is that, I probably place a lot of it on myself, just that concern or worry of like, oh, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not there to hear this conversation, so I might be missing out. But having to kind of get over that, and just remember that communication just looks very different right now. And I think leadership looks different right now. Leadership looks, in some cases, that you are showing up to the office, and that you're there for your frontline staff, and that you're making sure they're staying 6 feet apart. I'm seeing some of these social media posts from banks where everybody's like clumped up together taking these selfies, and I'm like, no, separate, push it hard. but
Yeah.
but like leadership in the branch looks a certain way right now. I also think leadership looks like what we're doing. We are working from home. We're like, I got out of that space. I'm traveling by county every day. Having me out of there gives them some room to breathe, but they still can communicate with me. So I like to look at it that leadership looks different right now. Communication seems very different. And so what I'm finding is that I can still just be just as active and engaged with our team as I was when I was in the office. I try to, and I challenge, we have a brand ambassador group. It's like our brand ambassadors, and we have one at every location, but I challenged them earlier in the week to take every day to try to reach out to somebody in the bank that you typically don't see, and that you're not seeing right now. Just check on them, make sure they're okay. Not so much about their job, but that they're all right. Just send them a Skype, send them a text, pick up the phone and call them, because I feel like that human connection that we all crave is just going to look a little different for a while, and that we all need to do our part in checking in on each other. But we have an intranet that we use. We call it My GSB. It's through Thought Farmer, and it's been really helpful. But we do a few contests on there from time to time, and post shout outs to our team when somebody kind of steps up and shows leadership. We're going to be rolling out, if I've got people on the call now, they haven't seen it yet, but we're going to be doing an internal bingo game. And part of that involves, have you washed your hands today? Did you check on a coworker? Have you done some training that, let's all make the best use of this time. And so trying to be creative to engage the team and keep morale up is going to be a constant challenge. I'm open for suggestions, because I think after a while, there's only so many searches on Pinterest that I can do to find morale boosters. But
Right.
but using that intranet, using all the technology we have available, we have a private Facebook group for the bank too, and so putting stuff there, just trying to engage people the best we can, and make sure they know that we've got their back and that we're here for them too.
Mm. I like that. I think your intent is just awesome. Like, we had a kind of like all company Zoom call the other day, and Sarah, who's on our team, has been fully remote for us for the last year and a half or so.
Oh,
And so she's been fully remote, and we have a handful of staff that are all remote. But what's really interesting is in the whole company meeting, she goes, for me, this has been really great. And I'm like, wait a second. And she goes, well, my job function hasn't changed, but you guys have all gotten better at working remotely. And
yeah.
so it was like, quite honestly, it was kind of I took it two directions, because one of them I was like, you know what, like, we've let her down the last couple of years,
Yep.
because like the way we've been engaging with her wasn't like, we got way better in the last few weeks at engaging her better remotely. And
Right.
so on one hand, I'm glad that she's doing well and appreciate all that she does. But like that reminder of like, like we learned that we just like,
Yeah.
I kind of let her down the last year and a half. So
Yeah.
I
It
saw
gets
we had
perspective
some
a lot.
cool, yeah, we had some good questions in here.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie asks, how has your branch been able to shift job duties and shuffle people around branches, to avoid layoffs and things like that?
Yeah, so we've made a commitment not to lay anybody off. So we are paying our people, and we'll make those changes depending on how long this lasts. But we're trying to make that commitment. We felt like investing in them, and ensuring that if we are sending people home because we're putting people on a rotation, that they don't have to use their PTO. We're gonna still compensate them as if they were coming into the bank. And so our frontline staff is, and I hate that Dale's not on the call. He could be talking about that, but we've got them on a rotation. Some of the bigger branches that have larger staff, there's like a group A and a group B, and so they're coming in to where we're limiting the number of people in the location, and keeping them kind of separated out, but also giving them structure so that they know it's not like, okay, well, you're going to be here tomorrow and then you're going to do this. There's actually a set structure of a group A and group B. And not all of our branches are created equally. We've got some that are more rural and some that are bigger and some that are smaller. And so those are all adapting accordingly based on their size. but so far that's what we're doing, and we'll just keep making changes as necessary, but no layoffs.
Cool. I saw Lane just asked a question about have you ever observed any, or have you observed some efficiencies that you want to implement when you get back to working at the office and business is back to usual? Haven't seen you in a while, Lane. Good to hear from you.
That's a really good question, and that's a topic of conversation I've had with several people. I know most of our IT department is working remotely, and they started working remotely early on to kind of test out if they could process at night, and at home, without having to be at the office. And so it's neat to see that they are figuring out some efficiencies that they can do remotely without actually being in the branch. I know personally, I'm realizing that technically I could do my entire job for the most part from home if I had to. But again, I like to see people and be seen and be out and about. I want my team to know that I'm visible and that I'm not just like a face square that they see on computer screen. But I think that all of us, I think it's not just banks, it's retail, obviously restaurants, some of these businesses that are finding that they have to adapt to survive. And I think we're all going to find that we're going to adapt in some way. And some of us may not want to go back to what we were doing before because maybe it works better. Maybe people are happier or more efficient, or you're aligning people better with their job at the bank. And so, I think I think as a world, we're all going to come out of this going, oh, I could do this differently. Or you're going to see a lot more probably grocery delivery or pickup, or all of those things are going to be really probably more revised and efficient than they were before. We were definitely getting that way. But I think we'll see lots of adaptations because we were forced to, not just because we've talked about it or we're seeing what other businesses are doing. It's now all of a sudden we are forced to make these changes. And some of it will be hard to go back to, I think. I've enjoyed having the simpler life at home, but going back to the office, I do look forward to that because of the sense of normalcy that will come with it. But I'll be, like I said earlier, I'll be careful what I get too busy doing going forward. I don't want to just be busy again.
Yeah. Do you feel like this is going to shape the way your customers interact with the bank?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's funny because, I think there's two types of bank customers. There's the kind that will always want to come in the branch, and there's the kind that don't ever want to come in the bank. They've never even thought
Yep.
about coming in the bank. And now all of a sudden banks are looking and going, oh, I really am glad that we invested in whatever technology we invested in, or ooh, we really should have. I know we were looking at online account opening, and it was like our Q1 goal to get it going strong. We were going to implement in Q1, but just waving at my husband, he's walking out. But now we're seeing, oh, I really wish we had that in place going into this, because clearly the number of accounts we're opening is different. It's declined, and any account opening we're doing, it's through a drive-through. So just the way we're all being forced to do banking differently, both from the customer perspective and the banking perspective. So I think that some that will be forced to enroll in online banking and use mobile deposit will be like, oh, well, this isn't so bad. So, I think we'll see a lot of us adapt a little differently. So it'll be interesting to see what everyone kind of rolls back to whenever we get back to normal.
Yeah. Like my parents, I told them you can't go to the grocery store. They're in their 70s, and my dad's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, no, like, I mean, you can send me a note, I'll pick stuff up, or
Yep.
you can order online.
The
And
chosen
so,
one.
yep. So finally he's like, I'm going to order on Instacart. And he was like, it actually wasn't too bad. Like,
Yeah.
they showed up, they delivered my groceries. So,
Yeah.
that may change them for a while.
That's so funny you say that. My mom is one of those that, she'll go early on a Saturday morning to get all of her groceries at Walmart. And she always gets really irritated when the employees of Walmart are filling all of the delivery orders, because they're pulling those big carts around and filling everything up. And I'm like, you should just do that too. It's so much easier. And she has never, well, now she's doing it, and oh, okay, yeah, I can see what it's about. So it's, yeah, we're all being forced to try new things for sure.
Yeah. So I saw Julie Waddle was on here, just saying she's inspired by spreading some love through her ambassador program on Facebook. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, Also, Julie, I hope you like the chair that Natalie's sitting on. I
Yeah.
think there's an awesome print there for you.
It's a
Oh,
little
fun.
short. That's the only thing. So I'm trying to hold my phone up so it doesn't look like I'm as squatty as it feels sometimes. So.
I ironically am sitting my phone on a banker's box, so it is sitting on
Oh,
a
I like
banker's
it.
box,
That's nice.
so that it's not too squatty. Um, awesome. We had some other
Yeah.
questions here. Yeah, forced change is a new thing. Hoping they're getting some online account opening. Uh, Julie loves your chair. So yeah,
Yeah.
some good stuff when we start thinking about that. So when we think about you're engaging in HR stuff, you're engaging in communications on social media. You've
Hmm.
got so HR is kind of like internal communications. You've got external communications, and then you're also assisting a lending team. What aren't you doing?
Uh, I'm not driving to work. um, and you know, assisting the lending team, I'm just, to me, that's just part of the marketing gig, is making sure that we do what we can to make them look good and have all of our stuff. You know, obviously we're protective of the brand, and even during a pandemic, we can't let that brand break. So making sure that anything they're sending out is conducive to the look and feel that we want everything to be. But you know, it's just a time where I feel that my mantra through all of this is that you're going to see true leaders rise, and you're going to see what people are really made of. I've used the example of peeling an onion back. Suddenly all those layers are transparent, and you're seeing good, and you're seeing people that maybe aren't measuring up. And
Hmm.
so I think that that's been really enlightening through all of this. And I think that, you know, that applies to family too. But like, I think that we all can look around and see our leadership in our banks, how they're handling this, and um, how they're helping not only the customers, but the team as well. Because when this is all over with, I think we're all going to be judged with how we handle different situations. And
Hmm.
they won't remember the time before mid-March. They're going to remember mid-March on, and how did they handle this? How did they handle that? Um, you know, I think it's a challenge to leadership in banks right now. That are you people focused right now, or are you bottom line focused?
Hmm.
And I know some, that may be an unpopular opinion. I know that game's floating around on Facebook, but obviously we need the bottom line to be somewhat healthy so that we all can stay employed. But in the same sense, I feel like being focused on people um, will make those relationships just as strong as ever, both with your customers and with your teammates. So I've been very proud of our team, that we've been people focused, beyond just being worried about the bottom line.
Hmm.
And hopefully more workplaces will be that way as well. And you know, I also being sympathetic to a lot of small businesses that don't have that option right now, because they're being forced to do things that are unfortunate. And yeah, I think that sensitivity is something, and empathy is something that we all need to really check in on and make sure that we're exercising that, because not everybody is just at home eating cookie dough, watching Tiger King all day. You know, like there's
Right.
people that are worried about where their next paycheck's coming from, and they're worried about if their job is safe. So you know, I think that's something we'll have to keep in mind.
Yeah, my neighbors are a little closer than yours, and I can see my neighbor's house from here. So I was talking to my neighbor last night from his yard, over the yard, and he's one of those small businesses that his revenue went
Yeah.
to zero, and
Yep.
he had a bunch of questions about SBA programs and all of
Mm-hmm.
this. And fortunately, I've been working on a lot of the communication side of that. So I was like, okay, well, I kind of understand, but like, you need to like talk to somebody.
Yeah.
How are you guys even coming close to managing that over like today, tomorrow? Like, I mean, are you sending out like frequently asked questions for your lenders, or what? Like, how are you even helping
There,
them in that spot?
uh, well, there's been a lot of Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
There's been lots of emails going back and forth. We've made lots of revisions to our resource page, our COVID-19 resource page on our website. It's funny. I was just talking to our Allison Twigsteyer, who is with the Twigs group, who helps me with my website. Mavis Agency created the website, by the way. I'll give a shout out to them. But I was telling her, I was like, just FYI, I'm probably going to be sending you changes on these resources daily. So, if not maybe
Yep.
hourly, because information that we had yesterday that we thought was correct is now different. And so I think right now what we're doing is that we're just trying to be proactive, and we're just trying to reach out to our customers, building calls that we're getting, and saying, hey, we're figuring this out with you. We're doing the best we can. Here are the resources we have now. Be as prepared, get your documentation in line. And then when we know more, we'll communicate that. So finding the right channels to put all of that on, and not expose yourself to looking like you don't know what you're doing. But I probably speak for most bankers that we're all grappling and doing the best we can. So I think
Mm.
that's where just communicating and being open with your customers of like, hey, we're here to help you. And we're going to do the best we can to guide you correctly. But here's what we know now. And obviously tomorrow will tell us a lot too.
Yeah. Well, Jamie just asked about, grappling with these sort of like decisions. Like, how have we handled
Mm-hmm.
the decisions for staff and customers, and how are, you've got some expectations from all of them that are
Yeah.
getting shifted. How are you managing that?
Our focus, I mean, clearly we always want to bring on new customers and grow the bank. I mean, that's always been our focus, but our primary focus right now is our current customers, or our current customers, and focusing on them and reaching out to them and making sure they know that, hey, we're here. We do have an assistance program that we are doing on the consumer side. Here's what we're doing on the business side. We're open to having conversations with you to do whatever we can to help you get through this. And I think that's community banking at its core. Like, you just have to, we're not going to put them into a black and white box, because everybody is very different right now and what they're dealing with. And just keeping those lines of communication open. And there's Allison, I see her now. And so just making sure that they know we're there for them and that they're not just a number. And I think that, again, like I said, we'll be judged going forward on how we handle things from here going forward, not previously. I mean, it's good. We got to where we are now, but we need to be there for them now more than ever.
Yeah. Kelsey asks about reaching out to nonprofits. Are you reaching out to nonprofits? Are they reaching out to you?
Um, I know we have a lot of our team members are actively involved in nonprofits from the board or committee level. And so I'm sure there's been a lot of conversations going on. I know that part of the SBA assistance involves nonprofits. So I would assume that they've been in part of the conversations just as much as another small business. But in Northwest Arkansas, and I don't know, Allison, you could probably comment on the exact number, but we have so many nonprofits. Obviously, we have Walmart headquarters, we have Tyson Foods, we have JB Hunt Transport. We're just a really big, booming area. And so lots of nonprofits are here. And so they're all going to be heavily affected, because today is actually NWA Gives Day. And so,
Mm.
they're moving forward and trying to raise as much as they can given the circumstances. But GSB is involved with a lot of nonprofits. And so I would assume that those conversations have been taking place as well. And, another point too is to make sure that we're utilizing our small businesses whenever we are giving assistance. So if we're kind of trying to work through helping our healthcare providers in Northwest Arkansas, what we can do to give back to them, and instead of and to utilize a small business in doing that so that you can kind of help everybody at once, and trying to be creative with how we do those things.
Yeah, yeah, I know we had for a couple of boards I'm on, they had, sort of like the emergency call to say, hey, we want to apply for this program and we need a board approval to apply
Mm-hmm,
for it.
mm-hmm.
So I know
Yeah,
they're moving quickly.
yeah.
Cool. And Julie asks about, are you posting about that? You guys have a special COVID section on GSB, right?
Yes. And so I'm glad Allison's on here so we can, we've been working on it. It's funny because we say it's funny. There's nothing funny about it. We started working on it and then we've made changes and it's like, wait a minute, pull all that down. We got to start over again. So it's been, I'm thankful to have the Twigs group helping because we've been able to move quickly and get that up. But, that resource page, we were putting a lot of stuff on our blog. So we have a Life is Grand blog on our website and we were issuing it all out through blog posts, and then found that, we're having to put a lot of information. We need one consistent place to put all of that. So we've put it all on one landing page for COVID-19, and it has FDIC information about scams, SBA resources, a letter from our CEO, and then also this customer assistance program. And so how that works and how to apply for that is included there. Additionally, we sent out information about that through our email marketing and also through our online banking portal. We have kind of a conversation chat feature there to where we could send a push notification. So we sent that out to everybody just to know that, hey, we're here to work through that with you.
Awesome. Now, I want to take a quick transition because I get to see you at conferences and I get to see some of the things that you speak about and really share about the girl banker, right, is what you're known
Mm-hmm.
for. And you're talking about a lot of these challenging issues on a normal everyday everyday being the girl banker. What's shifted? What do you feel like has shifted now? And it feels like there's a lot more things for us to talk about in that area.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah,
what
for sure.
sorts of things come to mind there?
Well, first of all, the messaging, especially on social media, and this applies to banks. This applies to my platform with the Girl Banker too. But that's one thing Allison's trained me from the get-go is to always be very sensitive to your audience. And right now, there was a period of time where nothing felt right to post. Like it didn't feel right to post something happy or, I hate to be critical of some of the fashion bloggers, but I was like, how can you post this picture posed with this outfit on when people are dying right now? Like this is a serious situation. And, so I second guessed everything. And so even from the quotes that I do on my Instagram page to the content I'm putting out, like I feel like we have to be sensitive to the situation and what we're doing. And so it's definitely, shifted. Typically everything is very focused on advocating for women in banking. Obviously that's still a thing, but we're all dealing with this, regardless if we're men in banking or women in banking or whatever we are. We're all kind of equal here in dealing with this. So, from the bank side, we bounce stuff off of each other a lot. Allison and I do, of just making sure that, is this appropriate to put out today? Like I need someone else to make sure. Like, does this sound all right? Because there is a time too when you do want to be positive and you want to post something that is like a nice distraction. It's not labeled with COVID-19 and it's that horrendous picture of that virus that no one wants to see anymore. So,
Right.
Just being sensitive to that is really important. I think banks especially, like we have to be so careful in the content we're putting out. I follow a lot of banks, and not to sound critical, but I'm a little surprised sometimes when you see these memes or GIFs that banks are posting on their grid. And it's like, did someone mess up and meant to put that on their personal account, or did that actually get posted to the bank's account? Because this isn't funny. Like there's some stuff that might be, it's, we can laugh about it, but fear the day that it becomes a personal thing for any of us.
Hmm.
And I think especially from a bank that we have to be really careful about that and think twice. And that's a rule for any kind of posting. But, for the Girl Banker, we, I was supposed to be in Minnesota in April, and I was going to be in Michigan and Maryland in May. And all of those events obviously have changed. Minnesota has postponed to later in the year. Maryland has postponed to 2021, which is fine. And Michigan is now considering to have their Women in Banking conference via a webinar. So it's neat to see, we talked about adapting earlier. It's neat to see how people are still adapting to provide that conference and that connection and that information and all those resources for women in banking. But just making it work for the day and time that we are. We can't travel and be there together, but we can still do it through technology. So I'll have to adapt my presentation. I actually like to engage with an audience, so that's going to be hard for me just to do it through a webinar. So so that'll be interesting this in May. But otherwise, I just my focus has been on being as authentic as I can. I love Instagram. I'm glad that you chose Instagram Live. This is my favorite platform. I feel like Facebook is just the worst anymore. It's just, I don't like Facebook. I've been on it since I think 2003 when you had to have a college email address to be a part of it, and you could still poke people and post stickers and all that funny stuff. But I just don't like the place that it's become, and it's frustrating sometimes when you're trying to share content from the bank and when people share it, it doesn't go correctly. So that's why I love Instagram, because I love the story feature. I think that's where you can really show who you are as a person. And I love to show stuff from the farm. I love to show the boys and talk about work and lift other women up. And to me, it's the best platform to do that. And so I did start a TikTok account yesterday, and I feel like I need to mention that. Talk about a deep, dark rabbit hole. It's funny. I never thought, in fact, I remember being at the ABA Bank Marketing Conference last September, and that was actually asked from the group, or we were on a panel, and someone in the audience asked if banks should have a TikTok. And I was just like, no. Why would we ever want to do that? And it's funny, I'm sure people said that about Instagram at one point, or about Twitter at one point, when we were all on MySpace. But it's now I'm like, well, I don't know what a bank would do. You'd have to be super creative and probably have a whole team designated to it. But wow, I looked up and I had lost a couple hours of my life that I'll never get back. But I laughed a lot, and so it was. I did a couple of them yesterday with my sons, and it was fun. But I don't think it will replace my love for Instagram, but I'm now in the TikTok world.
That's awesome. Well, we're gonna expect some. We're gonna expect you to pull off Renegade here in a little bit.
Yeah.
No, it is a super fun platform. It's funny because we had one of my employees, I kind of assigned her for like a project. I said, well, could you pull off some of this? I need some of your help on some TikTok videos. And she's like, I'm not on TikTok. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not on TikTok?
Yeah.
And so now she's like once a week, she's like, seriously, I have lost so much time because you assigned me to do TikTok. And I'm like, but it is fun.
Yeah, my oldest son, he wants one really bad, and I just won't let him have it. He has an Instagram account. I manage both my kids' Instagram accounts just to solidify. I use it as my scrapbook now. I used to be really big into scrapbooking, and now they're Instagram accounts. They're private, and I can monitor it, but that's kind of how I scrapbook. But I was like, you can't have TikTok just yet. But he sat and leaned over my shoulder, and we just hee-hawed. And my husband is just like, like what? And I'm like, just don't dog it until you get sucked in yourself, because you're going to be one of them too.
That's awesome. Well, Julie says that F&B has a TikTok account. So she's looking for some ideas.
Okay. Well, I think that maybe when we come out of this quarantine, maybe there's going to be a lot of content for us as a bank. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I love it. Natalie, it's been fun to catch up, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate your just willingness to encourage people and try this experiment together to figure out like, we're working from home in different places, and it's
Hmm.
just fun to kind of catch up a little bit.
Yeah, it's been neat to see. I think I feel more connected to people now than I ever have, and that sounds like an oxymoron, given that we're not actually with people. But you're kind of forced to have more meaningful conversations. I think other than just saying, "Hey, how are you?" You really are saying, "How are you?" It
Yeah.
means a lot more now than it did. So yeah, I think we all just have to focus on the good that we can take out of this, and lift as many people up as we can every day, because we're going to
Well,
need
and
it for a while.
your vulnerability just with this group to share what you're doing and where you've been and what this current life looks like, I think is just it's really
Yeah.
meaningful to a lot of people. So thanks for being willing to share that with everybody.
Hey, it's,
So
like I said, cookie dough, wine, and Tiger King. I'm just thankful for those three things. So I haven't, I'm only 2 episodes in on Tiger King, so I probably can't really brag about that yet.
we could have opened with "Hey, all you cats and kittens."
Yeah.
That would have been kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really bad about Googling and finding out what thing, like I read about everything that happens in a series before I actually watch it. So I know what happens, I know how things end. I know that's awful. People probably are disgusted that I do that. But I did that with Game of Thrones. Like I never actually watched it all, but I would research every episode in advance. And so I know what happens on Tiger King. I just haven't actually watched it all. So I will. I have plenty of time to do it.
Uh, Jackie says we're all cool cats and kittens.
Oh,
I
cool
like it.
cats and kittens. Yes, yes, we are. Yes, we
Quality.
are.
No, well, yeah, it's just been kind of fun catching up a little bit and just kind of sharing,
Yeah,
the different places we're at. So I'm sure I might not see you in person for a while, but we'll try to set
I
up some
know.
calls.
Maybe. Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you everyone to tuning in. And it's been fun. Thank you for this. Is my first Instagram live, so I enjoyed it. I'll have to do another one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks, and blessings to your family, good health,
Thanks. You too.
and all of that. And I'm sure we'll catch up with you again soon. Tim says we're doing social bankers here.
Yep.
They're all here, so
In the hizzy.
so
Yep.
awesome. I appreciate that for all of you who jumped in, and thanks, Natalie.
All right. Thank you. Bye.